years, it was swept under the rug, a subject few people ever discussed. It happened behind closed doors, a national tragedy. But now that's changing because of women like Susan Fuller.
When my daughter was just 2, her father carried her in one arm while he held me by the throat against the wall with the other, preventing me from making a sound or taking a breath. I gave into his grip, trying to diffuse the situation. I watched my daughter watch me do nothing. I realized that if my daughter were ever faced with a similar situation in her life, that she would do what she saw me do. She would do what I had taught her by my example.
In 1990, a group of women artists and writers in Minnesota got together to address the growing number of women who were being murdered in acts of domestic violence and to take action.
Well, the first meeting that we had, we brainstormed maybe 12 ideas, and here we were a group of writers and nobody had any paper. So I wrote it on the back of a check stub.
One of the women that had been killed recently was killed going into the courthouse to get a restraining order on her boyfriend. We thought about even drawing a shape of a figure there.
I think that's how it started.
Yeah, that's really the shape of the figure on the sidewalk. And then
from these meetings, the first silent witnesses were born. 26 red wooden figures representing women murdered in Minnesota in 1990, and one figure to represent the uncounted women. They each tell a different story.
The thing we wanted to emphasize was what the woman did in her life, independent of being a battered or an abused woman. So we wanted her to be in the context of how she lived.
At the hearing, I stood up in front of the judge, the attorneys, and my husband's family, and told them all exactly what had happened. This was no easy task for me. The judge remarked that he couldn't conclude that the defendant wasn't completely unprovoked, that to have slapped me may have been more normal. After all, I was still his wife. The public outcry that ensued in response to the judge's remarks and the county attorney's handling of my case was phenomenal. People wrote letters to newspaper editors, the Attorney General, the Governor, and the Judicial Review Board. The Governor ordered an investigation which ultimately led to sanctioning the county attorney from plea bargaining any further domestic violence cases and caused the loss of his elected position. Yes. The judge quietly retired after writing a 7-page letter of apology to me. My ex-husband repeatedly violated his probation and was finally incarcerated for 3 months.
On February 18, 1991, the Silent Witness exhibit was officially launched with a rally at the Minnesota State Capitol. Within the year, the exhibit was traveling around Minnesota. As word spread, other states began to build their own silent witnesses.
I remember it was August of 1994, and Sally said, "Wouldn't it be great if we could have the silent witnesses done by October 1st? And she did. It was my job to cut out the silhouettes. As their human figures took shape, I was struck cold with the thought that this could have been my sister Sally cutting out a figure that was to represent me in the New Hampshire exhibit.
All across America, people answered the call. Silent witness exhibits were created in all 50 states and 8 other countries. In 1993, Senator Paul Wellstone brought the silent witnesses to Washington, D.C. in a critical effort to pass historic domestic violence legislation. Domestic murder was no longer being swept under the rug. The movement took hold. October 1997, the silent witnesses returned to the Capitol. 1,500 silent witnesses are assembled as part of the March to End the Silence.
people came from all over the country because they wanted to be here. They came at their own expense. They made these witnesses and they hauled them all the way here because they wanted to. They wanted to make a statement about domestic violence. They wanted the country to know that we have passion about eradicating this scourge.
thousands of marchers from all 50 states gathered to show their support for the National Silent Witness Initiative, committed to promote peace, healing, and responsibility in adult relationships in order to eliminate domestic murders in the United States by 2010.
We have many mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters of women who have been murdered. And I want you to know that your presence here today in the nation's capital will make an enormous difference. And I want you to know that these silent witnesses, in their own way, speak more loudly and with more eloquence and more effect than any of the rest of us.
Well, I was saying before this day that one of the things I couldn't wait for is to stand on the Sylvan Theater steps and just see the sea of red out there. And it's true, it really was a sea of red, and I was just awestruck. But just seeing every state represented, and several other countries came and marched with us too, it was really incredible. We tried to get everybody here to raise their awareness and get their commitment, because we know that a march is not going to eliminate domestic violence homicides.
Between 1998 and 2001, the Silent Witness National Initiative has 5 main goals. 1. To have a silent witness exhibit in every major city in the U.S. 2. To turn October 18th into Silent Witness Day with marches in every major city. 3. To have domestic violence data collection programs in all 50 states. 4. To give recognition and rewards for those states and cities who succeed at eliminating domestic murder. 5. To have 50 American cities with 0 domestic murders by 2001. Across the country, progress. A treatment model for perpetrators, already expanding to several states, has an 87% success rate. Churches and corporations are running prevention programs. Court watch programs are changing the handling of domestic violence cases, and criminal justice programs have eliminated domestic violence murders in 2 major cities. The time is now to fight back against domestic violence murders. Silent Witness. It's about hope. It's about change. It's about you.
As my husband and I have found, the Silent Witness Initiative is about healing, not only on a grand scale, but one by one by one. I will continue with the Silent Witness Initiative, as I believe this can and will be the healing force for many women and men, as it has been for myself and my husband. I was a victim. I became a survivor. But I am now, like all of you, a victor.
I speak from experience. I was an abusive husband. I'm not proud of that fact. I'm merely here to tell you what I know to be true. I may not be the man that I could be, but I thank God every day I'm not the man I used to be. And I know that if I continue on my road to recovery, someday, working with the silent witnesses, even I can become the man I should be.
Join with us to save a life, to save a generation. Together, we can make a difference. Call or write the Silent Witness National Initiative today.
Violence in our homes, cries at night, behind closed doors and out of sight. Anger rules, tempers flare, love takes